Yeah.
Ready? Okay. Okay, the special planning commission meeting for October 22nd, 2025. It's 6:00 p.m. and we are in session. We'll have a pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Christensen. Christensen, oh, there you are.
You stand and remove your hats. Follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and will you do a prayer, please?
Our dear eternal Heavenly Father, we're thankful for all the blessings that has blessed us with. We're thankful for the rain we received. We're thankful for the community response to help those that were flooded and impacted in their rain. We're thankful for our community. We're thankful for all the blessings that has bestowed upon us. We're thankful for our families. Heavenly Father, we ask that thou will bless us this night, that thy Holy Ghost will comfort us and direct us, that we may conduct our meeting professionally, properly, and bless us that we will make those decisions pleasing unto thee that will affect us all, that will affect our community, that will affect our neighborhoods, that will affect our posterity. Heavenly Father, we ask that thou will bless all those in need. Bless them that they will have what they need. Bless them with health and strength. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, any disclosures or declaration of conflicts from commission members? No?
I've had 2 emails from Kathy Bentz about this matter, and I've read them. And I think she was going to share something. So.
Yes, and I have as well.
I have as well.
Okay,
I agree. Me too.
okay,
I've had some emails also, but I have not responded to them.
yeah,
And
I haven't either. Okay. I need an approval of the agenda order.
I move that we approve the agenda order.
I second.
Okay, and vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And we'll move on to our discussion items. Item number C1, discussion and possible recommendation on ordinance 2025.XX, an ordinance adopting, designating anew the highway commercial zone district for the subject Litchfield property as reflected in the 2024 plan. Okay, Kayla, who's going to give us the background?
I'll be the one giving the background on this. So I know you guys probably have a lot of questions about this, but just bear with me. I'm going to give you a little background, kind of explain what this is, and then we can go from there. So you guys had some background in your packet, but I'll just kind of expand upon it. So in 2023, a zone change application came in from Robert Browning Litchfield Family Partnership, so Litchfield. It received a negative recommendation from Planning Commission. City Council approved the rezone. So the property was rezoned from R120 to highway commercial. Subsequently, there was a lawsuit filed against the city alleging that the city didn't follow its processes. And one of the arguments in the lawsuit was that a portion of this property was designated as residential in the general plan, but was given commercial zoning. So the argument was that the general plan should have been amended first before the zoning was approved. So this lawsuit's been going on for a few years. At the lower court level, so trial court level, summary judgment was entered in favor of the city. So the city won. The judge concluded that the city processes and state statutes were followed by the city. The lawsuit's been appealed, so it's now currently pending before the Utah Court of Appeals. So in the midst of all this, as you guys know, lawsuits move along slow like molasses. We had to update our general plan. So in 2024, Planning Commission recommended by unanimous vote and City Council adopted the 2024 general plan. This is the general plan we have now. Residents within a city can contest a general plan within 30 days. No residents of the city contested the general plan, so there were no challenges. If someone were to bring a challenge now, it would be untimely, be barred. So the ordinance before you tonight is here because council wishes to designate anew the Litchfield property as highway commercial. So essentially what this is looking at designating this Litchfield property as highway commercial under an entirely different set of circumstances. We now have a completely different general plan. We now have a completely different general plan. So the idea here is, it'd be hard for someone to come in, the owner of this property, for instance, to come in and apply for any type of commercial zone and, planning commissioner council to say no, given this area is now designated as commercial, whereas it wasn't entirely before. It's now all commercial. So that's the idea here. I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions. One thing I want to make really clear, I think there's been some confusion, is this is not a re-examination of the prior decision. That's not what it is. We can't go back and say, oh, was this done correctly or this or that. That's not what we're here to decide or talk about. The question before you tonight is whether you'd like to designate this property as highway commercial. Do you find that it, meets the requirements in your city code, the 9 factors? Does it conform with your general plan? That sort of thing. That's the question that's before commission tonight. So with that being said, I'll open it up because I'm sure there's lots of questions.
So I'll speak up and ask everybody to speak up so it's clearly and can be recorded. So are you saying now the city council wants us to change the general plan identifying the entirely of the subject property at Litchfield as commercial? Not when they came in as entirely and then they reduced it down to less than 1/3 of it. Are you saying entirely?
No, so there's no general plan amendment on the table tonight. That's not what's on the table. So
Right, but you just
council has
said
the-
identify entirely of the subject Litchfield property. So originally, when he made an application, he had it entirely. They wanted to negotiate down. The planning commission denied it, recommend denial. The city council came back and gave them partial. So are we talking of the partial?
So
or
we're
the
talking
entire?
the portion that was given the zone change. So good question. So when this went to council originally, I believe the original application included like the entirety of the parcels, but there was a portion that was excluded. So what's shown in your general plan is what was rezoned, and that's the subject of tonight, is designating that anew as highway commercial.
Okay, that's very confusing and everything else because what they came in. So then let me come back. I reviewed those minutes. And I reviewed that full audio and that meeting. And yes, the planning commissioners approved it. When we went through on the general plan, line item from line item, we were looking at corrections and corrections Val made and corrections Riker made and everything else. When we got down to it, Riker stated that the general plan is not in ordinance form yet and the maps and not formatted yet until their subcontractor did it, and that they would place it on a future meeting. That never happened. They never mentioned one time when we went through that map, that whole plan, page by page, they never mentioned one thing or highlighted that they came back and changed the zoning designation on Lynchville's property. Anybody can go back. I just went through it, everything. Second off,
Can I address that before you move on?
yes,
So there's a limited time to, I don't doubt what you said. I can't confirm or deny it, but there's a limited time to protest a general plan. That time has passed. So even if maybe the process wasn't followed, that sort of thing, I don't know. The time has passed. So any challenge to the general plan now would be untimely. We can only work with what's before us tonight. So what's before us tonight is looking to see if designating this area new is in conformance with our current general plan.
okay, so let me back up. So a slippery slope happened before. They did not take the planning commission's recommendation. They turned around and changed it and passed it. Nobody told anybody about a lawsuit. We did not know about a lawsuit. Nobody knew about a lawsuit, period. And then they come back and the city council wants a slippery slope to cover their butts for the butts before somebody else by having us try to agree, which was done. Then when we go through this is such a big change, it doesn't comply with the 9 requirements that we have to go with. There was no traffic study. There was no environmental study. There was no erosion study. There was no water study. There was nothing. With the impact of a zoning this big with the neighborhood and environmentally being down there, nothing was presented. They didn't even at the 3 or 4 meetings before even tell us what they wanted to do until they finally had to admit that they wanted to put an RV park down there. What are they going to do now? Do we know? Nobody submitted anything. How can we approve something that we don't even know about? How can we even look at the 9 things that it's supposed to comply with without even knowing about it?
Well,
That's incorrect. That's not good government. That's not good planning. And that's not good protection for the environment and the community and the city.
I'll just address a few of your concerns, valid concerns. You guys, it's your decision to ultimately look at the factors and your city code and decide whether this designation you feel meets those standards. I think with any rezone, you don't know exactly what's going to happen with that parcel, right? And when you rezone a parcel, they're really only given the entitlements in that particular zone. So I don't think that this is any different than your typical zone change requests where, they're asking for a zone change, but ultimately they're only given the entitlements in that zone.
So you're trying to tell me or play the lawyer game that I can only answer the questions and direct only certain things, but you don't live by it. If you live by it, somebody comes in and puts a zone, wants to put a Maverick in a gas station to you, and they don't tell you they're going to do that, but the zoning allows it, you would let them do that on your property without being concerned?
Well, if it's a permitted use within the zone and you decide to give them that zone, right? You look at these factors and you say, yeah, we feel like they're satisfied, and they decide to use one of the permitted uses within the zone, then you'd be hard pressed to deny that, right?
Right, but remember, we denied it. We did not permit it. We recommended denial. The city council, which has the authority, which I do not, that's what I have a problem with. The city council completely changed it and went over. We did not. We recommended denial. And so when you're saying we came back and okayed the general plan because we worked on it for months, if not a year, and we're going over changes and changes and changes, and you look at it, we're talking about line item and line item crossed out. Here's pictures of that plan. Here's pictures of this. The whole general plan's here in front of me. And right here, one of the proposals on the changes on the next general plan, consistency, Any proposed deviation from a general plan requires a general plan to be reviewed and amended in advance through a public hearing process. We went through the public hearing process. We never was told that staff changed the plan, the map in there. Never once in that whole meeting mentioned that zoning has been changed.
The zoning wasn't changed. The general plan shows it as commercial and it was ultimately approved by council. So we have the 2024 general plan. That's what we're looking at tonight. That's our general plan. And the question before us is whether we feel it meets the requirements to be designated anew as highway commercial. Would we zone this as highway commercial? That's the question before us.
Then let me address item by item what our requirement is. The highway commercial designation addresses a recommendation, recognizes and demonstrates the need in the community. The highway commercial designates will be compatible with the character of the neighborhood and surrounding structures in use, scale, mass, and circulation because the parcel subject highway commercial designation are near Torkerville Parkway. Yes, it doesn't comply with any of that at the neighborhood. It slides through the slice of, at the very end of Torkerville Parkway, through the road, which they made a deal to try to get easements. Now they can't get the rest of the easements and everything else to finish out. Is not compatible with the neighborhood and the surrounding structures. It's all neighborhood. The highway commercial will not result in an over-intensive use of the land or exceedingly deplete of natural resources. Well, you know that's going to. That's a canyon in there. That's a floodway. That's a river. We just had a flood come through there. Their own people down there moved their vehicles up above my property, because it came through their flooding and the waters came through. I've been working for the last 2 weeks digging out people over here in Cholla. That's the natural resources. No, nothing's been studied about that. It will change the natural resources. It will deplete the resources over there and everything else. The highway commercial designation will not have a material adverse effect on community capital programs. Well, right now, the city is pretty stressed out. We have to negotiate with the sheriff department. We don't want a school district in here. We don't want a fire department. We're already being taxed 47% more for the fire department for their services. You don't think that's going to cost when you put a commercial thing down there, that it's going to be a depletion of our services and our budget? The highway commercial designation will not require a level of community facilities and service greater than the ones that are available. They already know they had to put a new water line right through there for Firelight. They already had to do that. They had to change that and everything and come through, right through that valley, right where they want to do this commercial. It already it put a big cost on our city. The highway commercial will not result in undue traffic congestion and traffic hazard. Holy moly's. Look at the new bypass, what it's doing right now. You can't get out coming into Torkerville in. I can't get out of my house. It's a death trap. You have to shoot across there. You put another crossing, another 2,000 feet above right there and shoot RVs, commercial people in. Boy, that is a hazard with no traffic plan or no traffic analysis. That is wrong. The highway commercial designation will not cause significant air, odor, water, light, or noise pollution. Please come up here and look at 4 o'clock in the morning from my road. The compliance of the light. I mean, that's a mile away and the thing is lit up like a beacon. They do not comply with the night sky order. I mean, that whole valley lights right up. You're telling me it's in compliance and it will not affect it? I'm sorry, and I'm not going to cuss.
In our bedroom every night.
Yeah, I mean, it is just lit up like St. George. The highway commercial designation will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, welfare of the present and future inhabitants of the city. Well, I'm a habitant. I live there. You don't go to sleep until after midnight on Friday and Saturday because the bands are so loud, the laser lights are going all over, and you tell me it's not going to affect me? That is a bunch of horse manure. I am sorry. The highway commercial designate meets the required 2024 general plan including without limitations conforming with the general plan. Well, they slipped that through, and damn if I'm going to be once, and damn if I'm going to be twice. I'm sorry, but I tell you, it doesn't comply. It's wrong, and I will have further statements to say.
Anyone else have?
And I ask you, please don't applaud. This is a public meeting, and I appreciate it. The public process needs to be adhered to
Yeah.
professionally and in order. Thank you.
So Dean, I feel very much the same as you because I felt like we had worked our tails off to get the planning commission to make a good decision on that area down there. And we passed it 5-0, totally against it. And I think the biggest problem is no one told us that had been passed, and naivety or whatever, I didn't realize it. The problem now is it's a moot point because city council has designated it that. However, we are the planning commission. So anything that comes in front of us, before us, to go down in that area, we have the power to say yes or no. Does it fit any of these things?
It doesn't. It's so far off.
Yeah, it's a fair point. That area is designated as commercial now, which I think is super important to keep in mind, right? But Val's right. You guys have discretion to decide if it fits the factors in your code. You do. So just keep in mind that area has since, the change here is that area has since been designated as commercial. So if somebody has commercial property and they come in and seek a zone change to some form of commercial zoning, it's tough to deny them, right? So.
Can you tell us what the city council was thinking in sending this back before us again?
In sending this back before us, so it's not the
What
same
was the
thing.
purpose of that?
The purpose. So the purpose here, well, twofold. So to be candid, city council wants litigation to end. This is a way of looking at the decision anew. So not reaffirming the past decision, but saying, okay, in today's world, with today's circumstances, would we make this decision? And you guys might make the same recommendation. You might deny it, or you might approve it. But city council wanted to have that discussion and to look at it, right?
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners?
And I will state, I want the lawsuit to end. I want them
Yes.
to come with an agreement or whatever it needs to do. I don't want the bleeding to the city to continue. We cannot afford it. I know that. But don't use the planning commission as a scapegoat for what was done before and then want to renew it again. That I have a problem with the city council now. And if
To
they
be
want to
clear-
remove me, and I fully figure they will remove me next meeting, that's fine with me. But I'm here for the taxpayers of this wonderful city.
To be clear, this is not reaffirming the old. It's not going back and saying, oh, we did things right or wrong the first time. It's not that. It's looking at brand new circumstances. Would we make this decision again? So keep that in mind. Given the current circumstances, if an applicant was to come to you seeking to designate this area as highway commercial, and it was designated as highway commercial in the general plan, which it is, would you want to grant that zone change or not? That's really the question.
feel like I want to discuss this more, but I'd also like to hear what the public has to say about it before we can. I'm ready to hear what the public says before I continue the discussion. if
I agree.
that's-
You guys can open the
Anyone
public
else?
hearing, yeah.
Yep, okay. Let's open the public forum of this meeting. Do I need to have a,
I move that we
A move
open the
motion?
public hearing.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do a motion to keep it
Second.
clean.
okay, and then vote?
Aye.
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 I do
Okay.
open for public hearing. Aye.
Public meeting is now open for business item C1, discussion and possible recommendation on ordinance 2025.XX, an ordinance adopting designating anew the highway commercial zone district for the subject Litchfield property as reflected in the 2024 general plan. You may approach the microphone. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address before you begin. Thank you.
My name is Lynn Williams, 1075 East Ramos. I'll admit I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I am really confused here. Is this not highway commercial at the present time? And we're voting to, we're trying to pass something to make it highway commercial? What are we doing here?
It is highway commercial at the present time.
Okay, what's the purpose of this meeting?
There's a lot
It's up
of
to you
bad
how much you want to
history.
discuss and engage with the public. We can leave it as
Okay.
more of a typical
Can you-
public forum, and then we can address
Okay,
comments.
if
in the
this
midst of our
meeting wasn't
discussion.
had tonight, nobody showed up here, it's highway commercial, it remain highway commercial. Okay? If we do something about it, it's gonna remain highway commercial. This is blowing smoke in the air here. Can someone, you're probably not supposed to talk to people here.
You're just supposed to make
typically
your
they're public
comments.
forum.
After the
Smart,
meeting,
yeah.
come to me and tell me why we're even here tonight.
You make a
Thank
good
you.
point.
Yes.
We're annewing apparently action that was already happened. So you make a good point. There's a lot of smoke blowing in
Well,
this.
it says there's a new, we want to do this anew. We already done it, so it can't be anew.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Lynn. Mhm.
Anyone of they can volunteer to talk to me after the meeting. Explain it to me.
Brian McNary, Rainbow Bridge, right under Todd's house. Todd Sands.
Todd
One with
Sands.
Todd in it. First of all, I want to thank you guys for doing a thankless job. And I'm with Lynn. I echo everything Mr. Haymore said. Today I went through this thing and I wrote down my thoughts. I'll try to keep it 3 minutes. I went down the 9 items and I'm taking out the 8th one because we could debate that for months. But so I'm firstly concerned with what he's going to do with the property, and I don't see any reason why he couldn't convey it and make it anything he wanted to make it. So that's an issue. You know, I wouldn't approve zoning if I don't know what's going to be built on it. So anyway, number one is highway commercial designation addresses a recognized and demonstrated need in this community. So I wrote, how's this accurate? We already have 3 RV parks nearby. We have 6 total in Tokerville, Laverton, and Hurricane. Another one nearby with an Airstream park near Virgin with 7 RV parks available. Are we facing some sort of RV park shortage? 2, highway commercial will be compatible with the character of the neighborhood because the parcel is close to Tokerville Parkway. The only thing close to Tokerville Parkway is Shangri-La, Trail Ridge, the Bent's home, the homes in Choya, and the cemetery on the hill. Residential housing is the character here. There are no commercial developments here, nor do we need them. Nobody asked for them. Highway commercial designation is not compatible. Number 3, the designation will not result in intensive use or excessive depletion of natural resources. The entire purpose of starting a business is to grow it. With growth comes intensive use and traffic. Natural resources are, of course, depleted. Water, hookups, connections to wastewater, traffic noise, turns, jake brakes on a 2-lane stretch of road, which is already too small and restricted to handle current traffic. Firelight is bringing along with access from existing subdivisions to include developments like Boulder Ridge and Devil's Hole. Thousands of people will be attempting to get on and off this 2-lane road in the near future. 4, the designation will not have a material adverse effect on capital improvement programs. Capital, as I know it, is highway maintenance, signage, asphalt construction, turn lanes, lighting, sidewalks, curbs, storm drains, water and sewer infrastructure, and the people that maintain it. The highway commercial designation will not require a level of community services other than that which is available. That's not true, because you're going to have to go out, you're going to get police, you're going to get fire, you're going to get EMS, and these guys are not going to do this for free. You're going to end up paying for it. Pretty soon you're going to have your own police department. We all see the writing on the wall. The sheriff doesn't do anything now. We're just going to get more of nothing. And I don't know what the agreement is. Is it my 3 minutes?
Yeah, your 3 minutes is up.
Can I pray for 1 more minute?
Quickly, Brian.
The highway commercial designation will not result in additional traffic congestion. That one just blows my mind. I don't know who made that up. You know, I can't even get up the hill now at 15 miles an hour behind trucks. The highway commercial development will not cause air, light, odor, and noise pollution. Of course it does. It creates light traffic, light trespass, we used to call it. Businesses, motorists, occasional moron lacking a muffler but armed with woofers. I skip an 8 and I get to 9, and it meets the requirements of the general plan. And this is where I have an issue. I don't remember this coming forward. I don't remember it being noticed. I surely would have attended this change in the general plan. I almost want to go back and go, when did that happen and how did it get by me? You know, I don't know. Maybe I fled the place in the summer. In summary, the Planning Commission got it right the first time when it unanimously voted to turn down the applicant's request. Absolutely nothing has changed since then, except they changed the plan to suit them. So they move the goalposts when they don't hit the field goal. And they don't like to push back, so here we all are.
Thank you, Brian.
My name is Dwayne Oster. I'm an attorney at the Dunn Law Firm. I work with Adam Dunn.
Can you talk
Can you
a little
speak up a
louder,
little,
please?
please? Bring it closer. I'm
Is
sorry.
that better? So as I said, I work with Adam Dunn with the Dunn Law Firm. We represent Kathy and Ray Bence. I'm speaking tonight for Kathy, which would allow Ray to speak independently. As far as the proposal, much of the wording in the proposed ordinance is vague and unclear, particularly in identifying the property at issue. It is simply called the Litchfield property, but Litchfield owns many properties. It's not adequately defined. There's been no new application. So again, why are we here? If the proposal is ultimately passed by the City Council, my clients intend to bring legal proceedings to set it aside. Among the claims that my client will make would be a regulatory taking claim in federal court. Regulatory takings happen when a government action devalues property. The statute still requires the Planning Commission to find the 9 factors. The wording was put in place by the city and is still mandatory language that a zone change cannot occur unless those 9 factors are found by the Planning Commission. Nothing has changed between now and the last time this was addressed. Again, highlighting why we are here. As described in my client's appeal, what is really happening here is contract zoning, a backdoor deal, an arrangement, a promise of a zone change in exchange for land. Contract zoning is illegal, and that is something that we are fighting. My client therefore urges the Planning Commission to carefully review the 9 factors and also urges you to not recommend approval to the City Council.
Thank you, Wayne.
I am Leif Bjornsson. I live on Tocqueville Heights, been there about 41 years. I own properties within 300 feet of the proposed an adoption and designation of 2025.XX, designating a new, very interesting language, the highway commercial zone district for the subject Litchfield property as reflected in the general plan. I understand this is a discussion and possible recommendation for the city council. So that's what I understand. Much has been said already that I was going to mention and said very well by the attorney, by Dean, and also by Brian. Thank you for that. So I won't go over the 9 points at all. There is a significant impact on 3 neighborhoods, that is Tocqueville Heights, Shangri-La, and much of Almond Heights, as far as all those items that are addressed. Ordinance 2025.XX, there is so much mystery shrouding this whole thing. As I'm listening, watching, and learning about it, actually I've been learning about it for the last almost 2 years and learning about the lawsuit, and how when the city council or whoever wrote this up mentioned that whereas Raymond Bentz individually and as trustee of the Ray and Kathy Bentz Trust dated January 12, 2001, has challenged in court the highway commercial designation on the basis of city process not followed. That is an understatement. And then what this is, that's actually what it's all about, is that the city process, proper process was not followed. So that's what the whole lawsuit is about. I'm opposed to adopting this ordinance, 2025.XX. And just as a side note, I believe you are a part of MLUDMA, which is the Municipal Land Use Development and Management, or you're going to be. I'm not sure which one it is. If you're a part of it now or you're going to be. Don't know. I can't figure that out. It gives you extra authority, I believe, in making zoning changes. So I'm against that if you are actually looking at it, unless you're already a part of that. I'm opposed to ordinance 2025.XX because there is no commercial development plan. There's no plan presented as to what's going to go there. And I'm opposed to ordinance 2025.XX because it would be further impact on the neighborhoods all around it, and it cannot be overstated actually as to how much impact there will be. So thank you.
Thank you, Leif.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Michael Franzese. I live at 1540 South Ash Creek Drive. My property overlooks the bridge and the highway. As you know, like Dean Haymore said, no studies were done on environmental impact for this highway. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the highway. Because if you allow this to remain commercial highway for that whole section that Litchfield has, he's not even near the highway on some of that property. That when you showed the map, it's not even near the highway. It's all the way down by Ray Bentz's house. So you start putting in stores down there, you're going to have to put in a bigger road, and you don't have any of the infrastructure in there to do it. Okay? We know why we're here, and we know how this got turned into commercial highway by an underhanded dealing that took place a long time ago. And we know what he planned on doing with it the first time that he wanted to get it approved. He was going to turn it into an amusement park, a big, huge RV park that was no smaller than a mini Disneyland, okay? He was going to have a lazy river ride, water slides, indoor go-kart, coasters, zip line, an arcade, an 800-seat amphitheater, miniature golf, some individual parks, pickleball, basketball, tennis, horseshoe, fishing, ponds, paddle boats, restaurant, food delivery store, a five-star hotel. That's just some of the things that he proposed the first time when we demanded that he show us what he was going to do with that property. So if you leave this commercial highway, he will do it again. And I don't think any of you can stop it once you leave a commercial highway. Since I live on the hill and you put that road in a canyon, and as Dean Haymore stated, absolutely no impact surveys were done, I've been seeing what kind of noise comes out of that canyon. Okay? I have a dB meter. The noise is in excess of 83 dB, which if you look on the internet and you want to get charts, that damages your ear. And anything over 90 dB, it is detrimental to your hearing. Okay? That's just from the back of my house. And I hear this 24/7. You have a road that you put in that was so poorly designed that if you're heading north on that road and you get behind any of those dump trucks hauling dirt, you're down to 15 miles an hour. I know because I recorded it. Okay? You have no passing lanes, so you have people crossing the double yellow line. So now you got safety issues. On the southbound route, trucks, even pickup trucks with off-road tires, are exceeding 70 dB just because of the noise coming from their tires, because that road is in a canyon. That noise reverberates and gets amplified as it bounces off the canyon walls. Okay? Semi-trucks coming down that hill are the ones.
Michael, can you wrap it up? Okay, you're
Okay,
3
yes.
minutes.
Semi-trucks coming down there have to use their Jake brake. And I know we heard that, oh, well, we're going to put a sign up there, no Jake brakes. It hasn't been done yet. Why not? I've talked to a couple of truck drivers. They cannot safely traverse that road downhill and maintain 50 miles an hour and then be down to 40 miles an hour by the time they get to the bridge unless they use Jake brakes. Otherwise, they're burning up their brakes. And there's another safety hazard. And to this day, you don't have any signs that say no Jake brakes being used. Also, too, there's no signs that tell the truck drivers how steep that grade is. And they're telling me, some of the truck drivers told me, they said, first time I went down that hill, I didn't realize how steep it was. And I'm hitting my Jake brake all the way until I get to the bridge. And I'm getting these noise levels. And that's just from my house. What about all the other houses that are up there? What about the houses that are across the bridge, up in that other little development where there's a lot of vacant lots, but people have bought the property? They're going to want to build a house on it. And the first time they come out, they're going to hear that noise and go, when did this happen? Our property value is going to go down. So in conclusion, I just want to say this is wrong. And what probably should have been done was the 11 or so acres that was needed to put the highway in, pay Litchfield fair market price for a residential piece of property, but don't allow him to turn the rest of his property into commercial so he can make his billions of dollars off of it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay, I'm taking a few notes here. I'm Charlotte Potter and I live down in Shangri-La. And I'm just looking at this that Kathy Bentz wrote right here. And I just want to mention, so her story started out that Bob Litchfield is a longtime resident of Tokerville. And I want you to know that I'm a longer resident of Tokerville than Bob Litchfield is. And I lived it down in that valley long before they were there. And the changes that bypass has brought to our valley, it's like Dean said, you can't even imagine. So there are people down there everywhere, all over the place. There are trucks, there are cars. I wouldn't even have the Olsen kids down there on their ATV. There are so many new people down there, and they just come off that bypass and just come on over and check it out. And it was bad enough with the Wedding and Events Center. Sorry, Tyler, but it was bad enough with that. And now with the bypass, there are even more. And I live down below Dean, and I'm glad that we have a gate that goes into our property. Otherwise, we'd have looky-loos coming up there all the time. So, but what I wanted to say is that if the zone change was illegally used as payment for a land, and if it went against the 9 points of standards and conditions necessary for a zone change, if it created a peninsula zoning, and if it overturned the unanimous vote of the Planning Commission, I just wonder if it's passed and approves and goes through, what sort of precedent does that set for future things that are similar to this? Because if this one slides through and happens, then what else is going to be able to slide through and happen too? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Well, I guess I'm one of the last ones, and I'd just like to give you the history of this really quickly. So I hope you'll be patient with me.
State your name.
The highway commercial.
It's Ray.
Oh, Ray Bentz, 370 West Shangri-La, here in Tokerville. City Council approved this on 2/1/23. What most people do not realize is we made overtures to the city that we could buy the land and donate it to the city, and the city wouldn't have to pay any money for it. And they wouldn't talk to us. And when we realized that, we said, there's something up. So we filed a lawsuit. Afton Moore told me there had never been an instance where the planning commission had voted unanimously where the city approved it. But this was one case, and we knew something was going on. So we started doing an investigation. We filed a lawsuit. We requested documents. We got a document from Bob Litchfield that said, now remember the kind of the deal that you worked out with us on this. Apparently they had been doing this before with him on the other land. You go to the Tokerville Sentinel, tokerville.net, look at an article called To Take or Not to Take. We have a copy of that email in there. So we presented that, we did depositions, and we presented that in the depositions. And that night, that was sent to Ty Bringhurst, who was on the city council. That night, he quit the city council because he knew we were onto him. The next morning, Heath Snow, he resigned as city attorney because he knew we were onto him. We got the information. We had the information. Unfortunately, the judge was a criminal judge. And so our attorney, Adam Dunn, said he is probably going to dismiss the case because he doesn't know the material. And sure enough, several months later, he did. So we had already filed and prepared the appeal. And that's where it is now. In May 2025, we were requested to meet with the mayor, Jerry, Joey Campbell, Emily was there, Darren was there, Ben was there. So we went down to meet with them, and they wanted to talk us out of doing this lawsuit. And we said, you reverse it and we'll do it. And they said, we can't do that. And we said, we can show you how to do it. You can take the land, you can pay for the land, the fair market value, or what is legal by law, but you can't exchange zoning because zoning can be worth more than the land, in which case this land now is worth more money for a worthless piece of land. So then they dropped a bombshell on us. As I was sitting there, Joey Campbell reached across the table and said, we're broke. The city is broke. We can't afford to do this lawsuit. And I said, you mean to tell me that you put the interest of Bob Litchfield over the health and safety of this city? They spent the money. You ask them. May I continue? Because this is important. Okay? I said, you squandered the city's money so Bob Litchfield could have a zoning change? In which case they were quiet. We knew then that something was up. There had to be either somebody was getting payoff or somebody was being blackmailed. But we decided to double down. On February 2025, they did this new thing to change the general plan. They did that to undermine the lawsuit because they felt they could undo the appeal. But the fact is, we'll just refile. And we plan to continue to do this. We are not going to live in a town where they do this. I found out that city council members were not even aware of what was going on, and I had to educate them and say, do you know why we're suing the city? And they said, because you don't like the zoning? No, because you took property in exchange for zoning, and that's illegal in most, if not all 50 states. And they said, how come nobody told us this? And I said, I'm asking you that. In your closed door sessions, they're not sharing that information. So we've been trying to educate these people. That was the bombshell, that they spent the city's money. Go ask them. You don't have to believe me. Ask them, how much money have you spent on this lawsuit? Here's the takeaway. Today, you'll drive down that highway commercial, and that land still is not owned by the city. Had they done what we asked, that we could buy the land because we think it's tied up in lawsuits and liens, had they let us buy the land and give it to the city, we were willing to do that. We thought we were going to do a good thing. Had they done that, that land would belong to the city today. That land does still not belong to the city today. Because Bob Litchfield can't give it to them because it's tied up. We could have done it. This will continue. If this does not end, we are resolved to continue this. This is the hill we're going to die on. Okay? So you need to know this story. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ray. Anyone else want to comment? Okay, I have a letter from Kathy Bentz that I need to read.
I'll wait. No, I'll wait.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll wait.
No, go
No,
ahead.
I'll wait.
Okay, changes were made to the general plan to bring it in line with the zone change the council approved back in 2023. That zone change was not in line with the general plan at the time. Despite that, the biggest legal problem is that the zone change was illegally used as a payment for land, which is unrelated to any changes to the general plan anyway. On February 1, 2023, the city council voted 3-2 to give highway commercial zoning to longtime residents Robert Litchfield. His previous zoning was residential. This action went against the general plan by putting highway commercial near residential. It went against the 9 points of standards and conditions necessary for a zone change and created peninsula zoning, all of which go against the city code. It overturned the unanimous vote of the Planning Commission, who had denied the zone change. During the council discussion, it was stated that this longtime resident had donated land for the bypass, and some members of the council felt they owed him this zoning. This is illegal. When land is taken, there needs to be a way to measure the cost of the payment made by the city for the land. If money is paid or equal valued land is exchanged, that price can be determined. But by giving zoning, perhaps the value of the land jumps from thousands to millions or billions. No one knows how much the landowner is enriched by illegally exchanging zoning for land. While the landowner is enriched, neighboring areas may be harmed. For this reason, most, if not all, states prohibit this contract zoning. We do not know the position that the city attorney, Heath Snow, who has since resigned, took on this matter. He was also the attorney for Firelight, so there was a conflict of interest attorney representing Tokerville at the time, Bruce Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins publicly advised the city council not to approve the zoning. That's it.
Okay, Anita Eaton, there's more history to this than Mr. Ray Bentz brings up. The history did not start in 2023. Back in 2011, the property was gifted to the city for the bypass road by Mr. Litchfield. Gifted, not in exchange. He made a zone change for the property down there. And that property was changed from MU20 to residential R120, and along the highway was highway commercial. That was properly done all the way through. I know it was properly done because I sat on the planning commission. I was the planning chair at that time, I believe, and if not, I was shortly after that. So the history goes back a long time ago. And it is not illegal for an individual or entity to gift property to the city.
Right.
They may, do not interrupt me, Ray. They may request and file for a zone change at the same time. That is exactly what was done with the Litchfields. That was also done with Doug Westbrook and I don't remember the names of all of the rest, but I'm going to call it the Westbrook group that owned over 1,700 acres in the middle section of the roadway. That was also done with the Lowe's on the north end after we were slated to enter into condemnation without any agreement or any discussion by the city. There is not a taking of the property down there. There was a request by the city, And the request was with a zone change application from the Litchfields to extend their highway commercial. Now I'm sitting at home watching this meeting and I'm hearing, well, I want to hear what the public has to say. You don't listen to what the public has to say. I'm hearing Dean Haymore say, well, there wasn't a traffic study. No traffic study is needed for a zone change. A traffic study is needed prior to a preliminary plat. A traffic study is needed prior to a final plat. Just because a piece of property is zoned something does not mean that that property can ever be built in the means that the individual who owns the property wanted to be. If so, then we would have property, we'd have construction on the top of the hill right up behind. When individuals overbid on a Sitla sale, you can extend me too. If you're going to extend Ray.
Go ahead.
They bought property up on the top where they figured because the zone said they could have this up there, they would do that. They then came in and did their quote unquote due diligence after the fact by coming in saying, where are the utilities? Where are all of the things that are necessities needed in order for them to do the construction up there? There are things in place that are required to do a commercial property or even a residential property of a certain size. You have to have secondary accesses. There is not a secondary access in and out of that property down below. Right now, you have one access in. You don't have a second because it's a private road. So I'm listening at home. I'm hearing Dean Haymore say traffic study, other study, soil studies, topography studies, whatever. And then I hear Jenny say, I want to hear what the public has to say first. What I want to hear is not, I'm going to listen to public clamor, because that's illegal. You can't make a decision based on what the public states. In fact, I'm sure the attorney right now is just cringing, or I know Bruce Jenkins is home cringing as he's listening to this. I know Heath Snow would cringe just by the words public clamor. And that is what happens when you listen to the public. What you have to do is make the decision based on what the code says. The code says, if it meets these conditions, then you can vote and do that. Now, the other side of it is your 5 votes, whether it is to accept or to reject, is just a recommendation. And it's a recommendation to a higher body that can do anything that they want. They can accept your recommendation, whatever it may be, or they may deny your recommendation. They may listen to counsel, and counsel is here so that he or she, and I say he because it was Heath Snow that got the city into a mess, and I don't know that anyone called Heath Snow on it till I stood in this meeting and asked him one day, are you representing your client or are you representing the city? And then I got his full brunt in the face after that meeting. So you have a council member, a legal counsel, who makes recommendations to the city council. And that city council can either accept and go along with those recommendations, or they can act on their own. So I would hope that as planning commission members, that you do what your charge is, and that is to follow the code. And if the code meets those recommendations, those 9 points, then you accept it. If they don't, then you state that they don't. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. Anyone else? Okay, I'll take a motion to close the public
Commissioner, do I speak as an alternate?
Oh,
As
yes,
from
you
the
can.
public, or do I speak as part of the
No,
planning
you
commission?
would speak as part.
Part of the discussion,
The
yeah.
discussion.
Okay.
Speak as part
So
of
let's
the
close the
discussion.
public meeting first.
Okay.
Okay. Motion?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Vote?
Aye.
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 Okay, more discussion. Mila, you want to
Sure.
speak?
So I am Mila Allenson. I have a little tag here. I'm on the planning commission as an alternate. Speak here. And I've done a tremendous amount of research on this over the past week since this has been brought to my attention. I have not been here. I don't have the history that you guys have, but I have spent countless hours at my expense and at my own work expense trying to find out what this is all about and if I'm seated tonight, how I would vote. And so I've made pretty much everybody has covered a lot of what I'm about to talk about, but I have some serious concerns. The role that land compensation played in the outcomes, the involvement of parties with significant financial interests to gain, how the city council disregarded a unanimous denial by the Planning Commission on January 11th of 2023 and failed to follow the proper procedures. I ask, what is the purpose of the Planning Commission if a unanimous denial is completely disregarded? Why are we here? Where are the checks and balances? Tonight's proposal is not just a procedural cleanup. It is an attempt to retroactively validate a flawed zoning decision, one that the Planning Commission rejected in 2023 for very clear reasons. We are told the ordinance is meant to align the zoning map with the general plan. But let's not forget, the general plan was amended after the zoning change and after litigation was filed. That change was initiated not by a broad community demand. It was crafted in response to a legal challenge and appears to be an effort to protect the city's interest in an earlier decision from judicial review. According to our city code, any zoning change must meet clear criteria. The property being discussed still does not meet that criteria. Purpose of highway commercial: to provide commercial areas on major highways. This is a peninsula, which should never have been improved to begin with. I'm not going to go over all the items because we've already done that. Highway commercial will allow for the following businesses and more. I ask you, do all of these meet the 9 criteria? A pawn shop, a truck stop.
I don't think it's whether the permitted uses within the zone meet the criteria. It's more so, does the property itself meet the criteria, right? So like the permitted uses within a zone, those are given, they were approved with the language of the zone itself. So I think the question would be, does this specific property meet the requirements in 10.8.3 of the city code?
Right, right. Why wasn't neighborhood commercial ever discussed? Why did we go directly to a highway? It's obvious. There's a lot more money to be gained in selling highway commercial. And the city has a lot more to gain in the tax bracket on highway commercial as well. This is not responsible planning. It is a political workaround to preserve a private benefit at the expense of the public process and resident trust. Additional questions that I have. Did any employee know that a lawsuit had been filed regarding the legality of the zone change from residential to highway commercial on Litchfield's Peninsula property? Did any employee, including the city manager, assistant city manager, or council members, disclose to the new planning commission on January 10th of 2024 that the general plan was currently in litigation? Didn't the new planning commission have a right to know that the item that they were voting on was currently being challenged in the Utah State Court? Commissioner Haymore, Commissioner Pressler, were you notified on January 10th, when you approved the general plan, that it was in litigation?
No.
Was the general plan itself in litigation?
The
or
general
was
plan
a
itself has never been in
particular parcel?
litigation. So the way it works when you approve a general plan is there's a set amount of time, 30 days, that it can be challenged. It was not challenged by anyone, including the Bences. So the general plan itself wasn't challenged. It was the zone change that was given prior to the general plan. So two
Which
separate
was
things
part
there.
of the general plan.
Not part of the general plan. So
But
two
was the
separate things.
lawsuit started before that, before we voted on it?
Yes,
Before you voted on the general plan, yes.
And nobody told anybody about
exactly.
Well, the general plan is separate from the zone change, right?
it. I know, but it affected the general plan.
I would just like to say I was serving as a planning commission alternate at the time, and I did know there was a lawsuit because I have subscribed to the notices, and on the notices it says it was saying there were a lot of meetings. So I asked questions about that. So I did know that. I have known that for a long time, and I feel bad that you guys didn't know that. But that information is available if you ask questions. And they don't tell us all the details of it because the meetings are closed. But I was aware. of the
Litigation
existence
itself
of a
is
lawsuit.
typically discussed in a closed session. So the specific aspects of litigation are not public. But the litigation itself, anybody can go look up. It's public record. As far as whether it was disclosed to planning commission or not, that was before our time. So I don't know.
It was not.
Didn't they have a right to know that what they were approving on that night was an issue that was wrapped up in litigation?
So I can't speak to whether or not the 2024 general plan should or should not have been approved. And at this point, there's nothing that could be done. The time to challenge it has passed. So, yeah, I'm not sure of the answer to that question. All I know is at this time we have the 2024 general plan. That's what's in front of us. What we're being asked tonight is to look at whether planning commission would recommend designating this area anew. You know, it's like we received an application. Would we designate this area anew? Doesn't meet the factors in our city code. And your answer might be no, and that's okay. You don't have to approve this, right? You guys are free to do whatever you want to look at these factors and decide. But I just want to be clear that the decision should be based upon the current plan, not whether the current plan was properly approved. That's not on the table. It's not even an item that could be reopened at this point because so much time has passed. So just to clarify what's on the table.
I don't know that I think the city staff has the burden to tell us of if we were a very large city and had multiple lawsuits going on, I don't know that the city staff would come as part of the general plan process and tell everybody.
Yeah, typically planning commission too is not involved in making decisions when it comes to litigation. That's council, and most of those things are discussed in executive session with respect to like litigation strategy and that sort of thing. I can't speak to why it was or was not disclosed. It just wasn't council at that time.
It wasn't disclosed because they wanted it to get it approved.
I just can't speak to that. And I think at this point we have the 2024 general plan. That's what we have. That's what we're looking at tonight. We can't go back and say, oh, well, now we don't like it. I mean, it was approved. It's what we have. It's our current general plan. And so the question before us tonight is whether we want to designate this area new as highway commercial. This area is already commercial in our current general plan. So the question is, are we willing to designate it as highway commercial? Because it conforms with a commercial use, right?
Some other things that I found in my research, I looked at the 2017 general plan as it was adopted, just to refresh my memory because I was there when we had the discussions, but I was in my seat. And at the time, this is what the general plan looked like. And there was a highway commercial zoning on where the bypass was supposed to go in this, like near where the property, it was.
A portion of it was zoned highway commercial.
Yes, some of it already
was,
planned.
just not all of it.
Yes. And so that was part of what I researched. I also called the former Mayor Bramwell of Hurricane because when I was a little girl, I lived in Hurricane and there was one stoplight there when I was 9 years old when we moved here. And Hurricane's main road has gone through that town and it has widened and widened. I used to be able to walk across the street as a little girl and go buy candy at the store. And I think that all of us take the general plan very seriously because we care about our town. All of us are here because we care about our town. And so my understanding of even before the general plan we're discussing in question is that part of the older part of Tokerville, if we had widened the road there, we would have had to tear down a lot of very old buildings, historical buildings that I think are part of our heritage. And so while I think it is really sad that we had to put in this bypass road because of the growth, because many people are moving here, in addition to me, in addition to the 20,000 who have moved here to the Hurricane Valley since I moved here in 1990-ish. Growth is really, really hard. And it makes us have to make really hard decisions. And this was a hard decision. I'm sure it was, I feel like for the Planning Commission, it becomes an easier decision when we have a room full of people telling us exactly what we should do. But we should, and I think that the reason they have separated out the public hearings from the city council is so that they can do what the city council is meant to do, as Anita pointed out, which is we need to stick to the code and follow what it says. We need to do things properly as the Bences are asking. And so that's one concern I had is, was this done properly? The mayor of Hurricane told me that it has happened before in Hurricane as well, that as part of the whole discussions, the zoning is part of the discussion. It sounds like the property was properly donated in this instance. And if the policy of the city is that the city council are the ones who have the authority to make the decision, they did make that decision, even though they decided
The Planning
different.
Commission
We
recommends.
don't have the authority,
You
right?
don't, and they can go
They're
against your recommendation. They
appointed.
can.
They
can do
do
that.
have that right.
And then I want to just address something that's come up many times, the idea of like contract zoning. At this point, those are allegations. And I think something else that's important to keep in mind is the city won at the trial court level. It's been appealed, that could be overturned, but they're just merely allegations at this point. There's nothing in stone as far as what, claims that have or haven't been proven. So I just want to make that clear that those are merely allegations.
Yeah, and I too would like to see it go before a land use judge instead of if it was one who was less familiar with land use law, because different judges have different levels of expertise.
You don't actually get to choose, so I'll just expound on that.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I'm just
you don't get to choose
expressing
your
my
judge.
feelings since we're all
Yeah, I get it. but
expressing our thoughts and
It is what it
being
is.
transparent. From my research, it seems to me like the city did appropriately follow the process the first time, which brings me back to a question which was asked initially by the public as well, which is why are we doing this again?
So we're not ratifying the old decision, we're looking at it anew. And one of the points, to be candid, is, if we were to designate this anew, it opens the door for an argument that, for mootness, essentially, that the city in completely different circumstances has looked at this exact same zone change, a different set of circumstances has looked at this zone change and approved it. And, so it creates mootness, essentially, an argument for it. How do you undo a zone change that was separately done at another time in different circumstances, right? It's tougher.
Can you define for us the consequences of a yes or a no vote?
The consequences of a yes or no vote. Yeah, sure. So it's not exactly a yes or no vote. It's a recommendation, right?
Right.
So ultimately this will go to council. Council will decide whether to approve or deny it. But the result will be that this area will be, I'll scroll down to the ordinance because I think it's helpful. This area will be designated anew. So it's already highway commercial, but we're essentially designating anew. We're looking at it, we're saying, okay, under these circumstances that are different from 2023, the general plan has since changed. This area is designated as commercial. Will we designate this anew? So if the answer is yes, then we essentially designate it again. One of the other outcomes of this ordinance is if a court were to originally to invalidate the original highway commercial designation, the original zoning, then to the extent needed, this redesignates it and amends the city's official zoning map to redesignate it as to highway commercial. So it's like city council, because city council does have the authority to amend zoning districts. So it's essentially city council coming in and looking at this, deciding that they want it to be highway commercial. If they do, then, taking the actions needed to make sure it's highway commercial.
So, so a no vote would essentially be recommending to city council that it not be zoned highway commercial. Am I understanding that
Exactly.
correctly?
A no vote would be, I see that the general plan contemplates that this should be commercial. However, planning commission does not feel that it meets the factors in 10.8.3 of the city code. Therefore, we're not going to recommend that this area is designated new.
Okay. Thank you.
But that doesn't prevent what happened previously, where the planning commission on a vote of 5-0 recommended not to proceed with it, but yet the city council with a 3-2 vote went ahead with it anyways.
It doesn't affect the prior decision at all. The prior decision is what it is. We are not changing that in any way. We cannot change that in any way. So it is what it is. It's taking the current situation, which is different. The general plan is completely different than it was then. It's looking at it and saying, would we designate this highway commercial now? That's the question that's before council.
But it's also a way for the city to protect themselves during litigation, correct?
It will be used as a litigation strategy if it's approved. Absolutely. We'll be candid here. We're not hiding the ball.
That's important to know.
It is. Okay, can I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Dean.
Okay. First off, we live in America. We live in the state of Utah. We live here in this beautiful city. I moved here, decided to retire here, hope to die here. But Anita, I disagree with you that the whole purpose we are Americans is we have the vote, the voice to talk and to bring up our views. And it's not public clamor. Or do you want me to call your testimony public clamor and disrespect you and everything you said? And then you said the lands was gifted until it gets to the Lowe's, and then there was going to be condemnation, and then something was worked out, which cities use as a force to try to get the land. And that's a bunch of crap. I don't believe it in it and everything else. But I disagree with you not listening to the public and not taking the public input. And then I should not take your input as reasonably. I believe that going through the process that our district attorney or our attorney recommends that we need to make a decision that it complies with the 9 items. I've already stated it does not. And I disagree that you can do a big project. I don't know any state or any community that doesn't require the documentation up front to justify what they want to do. That is just wrong. And I've been a planning administrator for 30 years. I've opened up the largest industrial park in the nation, going through the proper channels, the proper hearings with hundreds of people there protecting our community. Not only that, I will be the first one to agree, I'm trying to protect my quality of life. Do you want, and I'm thankful we have a nice gas station, truck stop out there, but that's where it belongs. It doesn't belong down at your house next to you and have all those trucks and traffic coming in, and we're gonna feel it. So I'm sorry, but I would be willing to make a motion if you're done with, but I want everybody's views and everybody's input.
I would like to hear from everyone too. I don't know if Glenn or Lonnie have more, it would be willing to share their thoughts.
Well, the thoughts that come to my mind is when we talk about that we have to define what is coming in. To me, we do that process when we agree, like on a multi-use, we agree what type of things we're allowing to come in to those. So we do, to a point, already do agree, and we set standards on those things. So to be able to go to a property owner and say, give us a line by line detail of what you're going to put there, and then we'll decide if we approve it, doesn't seem that it's fair to a property owner. So we did have our chance to say what is really the zone. That's a problem. For me, the problem lies in that part of the property does what I feel fall into a highway commercial. However, not all of that falls in a highway commercial. And that is what I believe is being passionately articulated.
When you say some of it falls into highway commercial, but not all of it, so to be clear, the general plan right now currently contemplates all of that area as commercial. So if any property owner were to walk in here and say that they wanted a commercial zone, I mean, they would be entitled to some form of a commercial zone, right? Because the entirety of that property is now designated commercial.
I know that it's designated, but I don't think it should have been. And I know that we're not here to talk about that.
Here's another question I have. So, because I feel like we should be looking at both the 2017 and the new general plan, because this was.
No.
Well,
So I know there's a lot of confusion about like wanting to look at this old decision because there's so much heat on that and whether it was done right and that sort of thing, because it's in litigation right now, right? But that cannot be considered. You can't say tonight, okay, I don't want to approve this because of the prior decision. That it's just not relevant because we're looking at designating this anew. This is initiated from council. It's a completely different thing here. So in terms of looking at what happened then and comparing it to now, it's not on the table. We have to look at what we have now, what we're given, and we may not like it, we may not agree with it, but it's what we have. We have the 2024 general plan. That's our current general plan. And then we have to look at the factors and decide, okay, would we be okay with designating this highway commercial? That's really what it comes down to as far as what basis council can make its decision upon. It needs to be based upon those factors.
I'd like to just say, I appreciate all of you coming out. I love that you are passionate about this, and I love hearing your voices and all of them, and you've all helped me to be able to make a difficult decision here. But I think that when we look at these 9 points, and if we're trying to decide whether this should be, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but if we're trying to say that this is zoned highway commercial based on these 9 points here, I don't see how it is.
That's fair, and you guys
See how
can
it's
find
consistent.
that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your job to look at those factors and decide whether you feel like this property should be zoned that way, should be zoned highway commercial or designated highway commercial. I think it is really important to keep in mind that it has since been designated as commercial in your plan, right? Like if somebody came in here today with an application, they have all commercial land. It's like, what do they do with that? You can't say, oh, go do R120 there because that's not on the table for them. It's designated commercial.
Yeah.
So
Do they have to meet all 9 points?
your code says that they need to meet all 9 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't meet one of them, we would.
Yeah. Let me look at the exact
Recommend
language. I'm
that.
pretty sure it's, it needs
Commissioners.
to be all 9.
Commissioners, I've been trying to listen and take this all in, okay? I know that how all of us feel. I know that there's frustration on our part that the city council overturned a decision that we took a lot of time to make, okay? But we're not going there. We need to get past that. We need to all look at what they're asking today. Would we zone this commercial today? Okay, look at the 9 factors.
It's already designated commercial. Will we zone it highway commercial, right? Specifically highway commercial.
Specifically highway commercial. So look at the factors. See how you feel about agreeing that this should be zoned highway commercial. Okay,
What other commercial do we have that can be allowed?
In that area?
Yeah.
As far as different zones?
Yeah.
Emily might be able to rattle us off.
There's land commercial, neighborhood commercial.
Right, there's.
What was the
when I
first
looked
one?
at it was the 3.
Land commercial.
Which has different, each of those have different things that can be allowed in those, and there's a table for those.
Correct. Also within the commercial designation in our general plan, you could do business manufacturing or light industrial. So it contemplates all of our commercial like zones.
Okay,
Thank you.
so any other comments? Are we ready to make a motion?
Mrs. Chairman, I have a motion I would like to put on the floor.
Okay,
I make a motion to recommend denial to the city council for the subject Litchfield property as currently zoned as highway commercial. I can't change that, but I can say that in the new request, that it does not even come close to meeting the 9 requirements for highway commercial designation. And that with the findings of these 9 making it based on just these 9 requirements that we require in our zoning ordinance to comply with, it does not meet that. And so I request that we deny as a recommendation to the city council.
okay. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, let's take a vote. Starting with Alani.
Aye.
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 Let me clarify. So I is in favor of his motion.
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So voted and so decided.
Excellent.
Okay, let's move on.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
And
I second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting adjourned.